That's all this was. A bailout bill for a state government. A bailout bill for failing banks or whatever. I mean, it's ridiculous. $16 billion line item for school construction and sharply curtailed spending to provide health insurance for the unemployed. See, how does any of that stimulate the economy? That's why the Republicans were against it. You can't just buy us off with some joke tax credit where some families get $800. That's going to stimulate the economy. Republicans should support that. So, but see, and I know this is an old story. This has already passed. It's already been in there. It's already been implemented. But I thought of this when I saw this Jon Stewart interview with Bill O'Reilly, and I'm like, that's how a liberal thinks. That's how he thinks. They think, oh, look, this is a tax cut. And then the government can spend all this other stuff, and they don't get conservatives. They don't get Republicans. Why? They're against this. They're saying, look, the spending has got to stop. We're in too much debt already. The spending's got to stop. Second, government intrusion is the problem. Too much government intrusion is what is hurting the economy, not the other way around. And, liberals, another thing Jon Stewart said is that he's happy that Obama's in there because he can start the regulating mechanism, is his exact words. Basically, he thinks there wasn't any government regulation. That's absurd. I mean, what did they think George Bush was in there? It's like, oh, the Wild Wild West, there is no regulation. Oh, I believe the FDA still existed. I believe the EPA still existed. I believe Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were government subsidized. All this during the Bush administration. I believe the Bush administration added more to Medicaid. They added more to the S-chip program. They added, what else they did? The No Child Left Behind Act. That added more to the power of the federal government in terms of the Department of Education. To say there was no regulation during the Bush administration is absurd. There was probably too much. Especially, I mean, it's just absurd. I hate when people say that it's under-regulation was the problem. Are you kidding me? Have you seen the tax code, even under the Bush administration? I mean, it's complicated. There is so much government intrusion in our lives. It's not even funny. I mean, we think about where all this started. It all started with the housing bust, the housing bubble bust. Why did the housing bubble bust? Because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which were government-subsidized organizations, were giving out loans or buying loans that people couldn't afford, knowing it. These subprime loans that people couldn't afford, but the government, through the Community Reinvestment Act and other areas, pressured them to give out these loans. They pressured the banks to give out these loans, and then they pretty much bought those loans from the banks through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And then all that burst because they couldn't afford it. That was government intrusion. It wasn't deregulation. In fact, the Bush administration in, I think it was 2000, 2001, wanted to fix the problem with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And the Democrats said, no, we don't want to do that. This whole idea that we need more regulation, the regulation mechanism is absurd. And now Obama's doing the same thing with banks. He wants to add more money. We want our money back from the banks, even though the majority of the banks have paid it all back with interest. This isn't about regulating an unstable economy that was too deregulated in the first place. No, this is about control. They want control. And Jon Stewart said some other things about conservatives. He talked about how he was happy. Well, he talked about the brilliance of Fox News is it mainstreamed talk radio, conservative talk radio. For one, that's absurd. There's only two things. Shepard Smith, Greta Van Susteren, Bill O'Reilly are not conservative talk radio types. They're not. So that's an absurd comment. But even if it did, good. Good. Conservative talk radio gets it more than anything else. Talk radio is an in-depth discussion of the issues. They get it. And he was saying something about, some of them are way off the wall, and they think Obama in office is a crisis, and they compare him to Chairman Mao. No, they don't. Nobody thinks Obama's the next Chairman Mao of China. Nobody thinks Obama's going to start some great leap forward like he did in China and industrialize all the farms and yada, 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 and kill millions of people. Nobody thinks Obama's going to do that. When we talk about Obama being a socialist, we're talking about economically. And you might say, oh, that's crazy talk. He's not a socialist. You're crazy. Really? Well, what is he then? I believe he took over the car companies GM and Chrysler. I believe he believes in the redistribution of wealth. He said it before in his own words. He said the Constitution does not address enough redistribution of wealth. He said that. And he's doing it. let's see, they've fully taken over the housing and, most of the housing industry through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are not government subsidized anymore. They're government owned. He's trying to overregulate banks. He's taken over a lot of banks. Bailed them out. What is this then? It's not capitalism. That's not capitalism. All we're saying is that Obama's policies lean towards a socialist direction because socialism is basically government control of the economy. That's what socialism is, and Obama's leaning in that direction. Oh, that's crazy talk. Why is that crazy talk? Tell me where I'm wrong. What is he doing that's capitalist? Nothing. His stimulus project was not capitalist at all. It didn't stimulate the private sector. It stimulated the government sector. The government has grown more under Obama than ever before. There's more jobs in the government right now than ever before because of Obama. What is it then? All we're saying is economically he leans socialist. And that's not crazy talk. But that's what the liberal, like Jon Stewart, that's what he wants to hear. He tunes out all the rest of that I've just said, and he just says, oh, socialist, oh, crazy. Fine, tune it out. And then they say, oh, Republicans support this tax cut. One thing, it's not tax cut, it's just tax credits, which is like a mail-in rebate, pretty much giving them money to shut them up for a while. It doesn't even help stimulate the economy, and the tax credits themselves are a joke because they're minuscule in comparison to the whole entire economy. And I'm going to talk about later how Obama is spending more. His budget is more than like ever in history. It's insane. He's spending us into oblivion, as this article says that I'm going to read from the American Spectator in a second. And most of it is just government simulating more government. Why? That's not capitalism. No. So, when we say lean socialist, we're not crazy. And don't let them tell you you're crazy. You know what you're saying. Well, no one is saying that he is the next Stalin or the next Mao or the next Hitler. Nobody thinks that. It will never happen. But what we're saying is economic policies lean socialist. They lean Marxist because it believes in government control of a lot of the economy and the redistribution of wealth. He said it. He said it. Wants to spread the wealth around. He said that the Constitution doesn't address the redistribution of wealth. He believes in tax hikes for the rich and then tax credits for the poor. What is that? Yeah. So, I'm going to play a song here, and then I'm going to talk about this Obama bill. This blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm a professional broadcaster. I'm going to talk about this Obama budget that has recently been released, but there might be an interesting solution to the problem. You definitely want to stick around and hear the solution. You are listening. What did I do with it? I had music CDs to play because I need them up for music, so I'm just stalling here right now so I can play. You are listening to the Michael Yaffee program, wnsc.ucf.edu online radio.